The Fog is another movie that you might be more familiar with the remake, which came out in 2005. But if you saw that, trust me, the original is nothing like it. It's actually a good movie. While the 2005 one was a typical teen horror movie, the original is a much more serious film. It's directed by John Carpenter, who had previously had success directing Halloween, and a lot of the things that made Halloween great are present in The Fog, including Jamie Lee Curtis, who is in this film playing a hitchhiker. Anyway, The Fog all takes place during the course of one night when an eerie fog rolls over the town of Antonio Bay in California. The town is celebrating its 100th birthday, but the problem is that the town was founded on murder. One of the main characters is a typical drunken Catholic priest, Father Malone, who, when a wall in his church is broken open, he finds the journal of his grandfather, one of the founders of the town. The diary tells the story of how the town was founded. A man named Blake, who was very wealthy but suffering from leprosy, was planning on opening a sanatorium for lepers nearby, but everyone freaked out at the thought of having lepers hanging around, and motivated by greed, they used a bonfire as a false beacon to cause Blake's ship to crash, killing everyone on board. Then they went in and stole all of his gold and used it to found the new town. Now, 100 years later, the ghosts of Blake and his shipmates are back for some sweet, sweet revenge, and they specifically target the heirs of the town founders, including Father Malone, though some of those heirs are symbolic heirs, people who have parallels to the original murderers. As the fog rolls in and the ghosts start wreaking havoc, the movie follows a cast of characters all separated and tied together by the person who most would consider to be the main character, Stevie Wayne, a late-night radio DJ who attempts to keep things sane with her broadcast, while also looking for news of her son, who was caught out there in the fog. Father Malone reveals the truth of how the town was founded to the current leaders, trying to convince them to put off the centennial celebration to investigate the matter further, but they really just tell him to go fuck himself in the nicest possible way. The ghosts stalk their prey, systematically taking out the 6 people who represent the original murderers, and Father Malone attempts to appease the ghost of Blake by presenting him with a gold cross made from the gold plundered from his ship. Well, you'll have to watch the movie to see how that works out for him. It's a pretty sweet twist. What's interesting is the film, apparently, originally it sucked hard. John Carpenter finished the movie, and then he watched the first rough cut, and he thought it was pretty awful, so he had to film new scenes to add to the plot of the movie and flesh it out more, as well as reshooting existing scenes to make the movie more intense, more violent, and more visceral. I can't speak to how bad the original version actually was, but I tend to think that Carpenter did a good job fixing it, as the end result is a really fun film. There are a shitload of characters, but you never feel overwhelmed by them, as the movie doesn't give you any info dumps on them trying to get you invested in their whole personas and backstories. Instead, it just shows them in a slice-of-life type situation. You get a feel for who they are at the exact moment you see them, but nothing more complex than that. For a lot of movies, this would be a cheap way to get out of character development, but for a large cast, it's a smart way to keep the movie fun and exciting and not bogged down with too much character development. The ghosts, well, what can I say? They've got a really cool design to them. They look like a cross between the wraiths from Lord of the Rings and zombies, and their glowing red eyes really adds to the overall design. The use of fog is, of course, very important, not just as a visual, but as a storytelling device, and it's done really well here. If I have to fault the movie for anything, it's that it just really had a low budget. Carpenter did the best with what he had, but the movie just shows its age pretty hard. Still, I prefer it greatly to the Limp remake, which filled up the cast with teenagers and took all of the edge out of the original. The Fog isn't perfect, but it's a lot of fun, and I recommend it. I give it an 8 out of a possible 10.